Yeah, very briefly. I'm probably one of that small group who's been a Labour Party member. I've never left the Labour Party. Actually, the question of affiliating to Labour Party, in the long term, yeah, I think that'd be good. I think in the short term, it would be disastrous. I think what we have to do is, rather than thinking about that, might be at the moment quite a mechanistic response to the problem. What I think we need to do is to build up the kind of political activism at a local level, so that people will actually begin to see the Labour Party as their natural political home. So we need the Labour Party, in a sense, to be doing things where people kind of feel inspired, I think, rather than just kind of affiliating to the Labour Party, which I think would actually have a negative impact in lots of different ways. The other thing is, I suppose, I agree with the point about we need people who will articulate, MPs, important people in the party who will articulate sort of what the NUT stands for and for a new kind of vision of education. But I think once again, we have to create a situation where on the ground, and I think the NUT is trying to do this through a lot of the work we're doing with going out to communities, we have to build a situation where we are building such a strong movement in favour of education that those people who are representing us actually feel confident in representing us and putting those ideas forward. So I don't think that, again, it's something that can just be done from the top, although I think our leaders should be doing that, but we have to build up that kind of political groundswell in order to achieve that.
Thank you. Sean?
On the trust thing, I don't really think you should trust Tristram Hunt. I don't trust Tristram Hunt. I don't trust the Labour leadership that much, but I do trust the left of the Labour Party. I think if there's enough people who have those same views join the Labour Party and they can get more people onto the leadership, then I would trust them. And I think that's why you should join the Labour Party, so that you can trust the Labour Party again.
Thank you. Carly-Ann?
We just want to say that the Labour Party need to state their confidence in the school workforce, and they need to listen to the school workforce, and they need to remember the size of the school workforce and its voting power going on into the next election.
Nancy?
Okay, two things. On Martin's point on private education, I had to go and speak at a private school in the last election. I haven't been to Rodine or Brighton College yet. But the first question I was asked from the floor of students was, why do you hate private education? And I said to her, it's not about hating it. And I kind of explained my belief in sharing out resources and wealth so that everybody had kind of an equal bite at the cherry. And she came back and said to me, yeah, but if we gave up what we have and had to share it out, then we would lose out. And at quite a young age, there was this individualistic approach, and that really worries me. And that would be my primary reason for being opposed to private education, is because at a very young age, we're instilling in people that if they've got the backing and the wealth, they can hang on to it and they haven't got to share it, and that worries me. I mean, you know that I'm opposed to private education anyway, but I haven't been up to the other two colleges to tell them that yet. To John's dad, whose name I didn't catch, I'm afraid.
Phil.
It's Phil.
Phil.
Phil, hi. I don't know if you're aware, but I'm supported by Unite and GMB and TSSA to stand. I just wanted to make you aware of that. I'm very proud actually to be supported by the trade union movement to stand. On mutual trust and influencing, can I do both those points together? Because one of the things I learned from last time around is that you do tend to be influenced. Like, what comes to the forefront of your mind is what people are contacting you about, particularly towards when it gets closer to the general election. And I have to say, you know, you get these occasions when Ed Miliband will pop down, or whoever is in charge at the time, and say, what do you think? What do you think about this? What's coming up in the constituency? And actually, Fox Hunting and Trident, both of them came against, well, what was coming up. That was what was coming into the inbox, in the email, more than anything else. I don't remember having much contact with teachers apart from Paul. I think Paul was my main link with any teachers. He was the person that contacted me. And I think, you know, as somebody that is a campaigner for a living, what you would always try and do is build a mass body of support. And it does come down to the issue Paul said about confidence. I need to know, I've got all of you behind me, if I'm going to go out there and say something different to Labour Party policy. Now, I'm happy to do that, but it would be completely wrong of me just to stand on my own political ideology. As much as I believe in what I believe, my job is to represent all of you and to represent everybody out there. So I need to have a sense of the strength of feeling of teachers, which means I need teachers to get in touch with me. But I also accept it's my responsibility to reach out. So I mean, obviously, you know, I will be talking to Paul about going to meet teachers at NUT branch meetings and anything else people want me to go to. I'll be very happy to do that. And I sent messages of support in the last 2 disputes. So it is, as well as being mutual trust, I think it's also a mutual let's start talking to one another now, so that I can say hand on heart when Ed says what's the big issue coming up in your constituency. I can say we've got 1,000 teachers in this constituency. They've been on at me non-stop. This is what they want. This is what they want to see. This is what we've got to do as a Labour Party and change if they're going to be on our side. And don't underestimate the power of lots of people contacting you and lots of people saying what they believe in. Yeah. Enough, I can take it out there and say, there's no way I can stand against this law. But I want you behind me. I want us to be on the same side.
It's a deal. We'll do it.
Good. Kevin.
I really want to associate myself with the way Nancy spoke about private education. I think that's an incredibly powerful way to look at it. I think you're right, it is an issue that needs to be looked at, and you're also right that Finland doesn't have private education, no significant degree of private education. But on Finland, Val said in the earlier round of questions, Finland is a much more equal society. So there is a, you know, the parallel I was drawing between the two education systems. I think the fundamental reason the outcomes of their school system is more equal is because their society is more equal in the first place. Yeah. And that's something that Labour has to work for. And I think that Sister talked about trust. I'm sorry I didn't catch your name. I think that's a really good way of talking about that issue. We know that the way they organise education now doesn't trust teachers. Teachers are doing 60, 70 hours work a week, and most of the hours outside school, I think, are not spent on preparing exciting lessons for children. They're spent on proving what you do all day, because there's an organised system of mistrust. And Labour needs to change that and say, we're going to free teachers up to teach the way, you know, to teach with their professional judgments, only look at failing teachers in a, God, what do I want to say? Oh, there should be a proportionate system. If they think somebody's got an issue, they should talk to that teacher, but they treat everyone as though they're failing. They require evidence from every teacher, and they need to build a system based on trust if Labour want to get trust back. And that brings you on to the Labour-NUT relationships. Nancy says, can we affiliate? And I'm afraid I agree with the people here that we couldn't do that right now. I don't know about when you were at Labour NUT conference previously, there have been attempts to get the NUT.
Did it every year.
There have been attempts from the left in the NUT to put affiliation. They haven't been put the entire time I've been going to NUT conference. And I first started in 1987, and it's never been put during that time. And clearly, when the voting figures were, as I said they were in 2010, 32, 33, 27, that's not a time when you can put affiliation to the Labour Party. So there is more work to do before we're possibly in that position, I regret to say. But that doesn't mean that we can't build links, and it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be organising. The union should be seeking to organise teachers who are in the NUT and in the Labour Party. And I know that Emma, one of the people in the audience who hasn't spoken, was trying to do that for this conference, and I think we should look at how we do that, that we should get NUT members who are Labour Party members together to talk about how we can organise some influence. There has been an attempt to do that in recent years, and an organisation called Labour Teachers was set up, but unfortunately it's been captured, I think, by some quite right-wing elements amongst teachers, and I don't know whether it's possible to change that or whether something else has to be done around it. So, but I do think that's an important bit of work. Phil, were you saying that I was painting a rosy picture of New Labour? Because I have to check my speaking style if I was, because I really wasn't trying to do that. I was criticising New Labour over academies, over performance-related pay, over not trusting teachers. But I did say some positive things that Labour had done. Sure Start, increasing funding, putting a limit on class size. I think it's important to recognise when the government did something good, because we need them to win another election. But I was hoping I was criticising them on the other points, because I'm very critical. Left the party in 1987 over the miners' strike. It took me a little while to leave. So, but anyway, I wasn't trying to paint a rosy picture. And I just want to end. My last point is to completely agree with what Paul said, and I think what Nancy was saying, the same thing. if we want to get Labour to change, we should go to meetings, we should organise teachers, I should go to see Tristram Hunt and see if I can persuade him, but really we have to build a movement that forces the party to change. I think when Labour created the NHS, I don't see that as the Labour government creating the NHS. I see it that the soldiers at the end and their families at the end of the Second World War said, we're not putting up with this. And they've made the Labour Party, it becomes a growing thing that then Labour can introduce the National Health Service. And we need to build that movement from below that makes it obvious that Labour has to break with the current Tory model.